Hey guys, I'm Zach Hildebrand. Here's my student ID, Zach Hildebrand. Driver's license, Zach Hildebrand. I apologize for having to do this at work. A lot of overtime this week, pretty much the only opportunity I have. So hopefully you can hear me over the droning of the transformer behind me. So we got the Shahnameh and Epic Sunjata, and we're talking about Afrasiyab and Soumaoro. So the interesting thing about these is, with Soumaoro's story, you have the sense that he was always evil, but it just amped up once he gained a position of power, right? He did everything right to begin with. He fortified his base, he built up an army, he collected tribute, standard things whenever you're establishing a new kingdom, right? But he just is like he took the level of bully up to 11. He's flogging people in the streets. He's kidnapping little girls, taking them back to the house. He kidnapped the wife of his nephew. Whereas you juxtapose that with Afrasiyab, and it seems like, in my opinion, I might be biased because I enjoy the Shahnameh more, but it seems like Afrasiyab has some elements of good in him. It seems like there's times when he's trying to do the best for the people of Tehran, but other times, it's like he's trying to satiate his hunger. So it's at the degree of like, what is the ends? And the example of that I gave is when Porab was still the king, he tried to convince him after the second failed attempt. It's like, why are we doing this? What's the point of taking over Iran, right? And so he persuaded his dad to establish diplomacy with Iran when when they set up the borders, right? So, okay, so we take all that into account with the endings, right? So they've done all this, and with Afrasiyab, he keeps trying to fail and trying to fail and trying to fail. I mean, one of these days. Whereas Soumaoro, it's just win streak one after the other. He ends up developing a complex over it. And so what happens? He gets all of his magic taken from him, all of his invulnerability. He loses everything in an instant, and he flees. He flees from Sunjata like a coward, like a small field mouse, like he is. Ends up hiding in the cave, refuses to fight him on even footing, and ends up crumbling his empire. And we don't hear from him again. Whereas Afrasiyab, he's trying to fail and trying to fail and trying to fail, and I know I've illustrated it as a negative point in the PowerPoint, but he ends up having to rely more and more on a council. I can only imagine because this takes place over like dozens of years, right? Like constant attempts and failures, what that does to his psyche is like he's second guessing his, the word I'm looking for, he's second guessing himself, right? So he's relying more and more on his council. And it gets to his ending where he kills Sayawush, and he's like, oh no, what have I done? And it's just sorrow and regret and just remorse and everything. And it really shows his humanity, whereas Soumaoro, not so much, right? I feel like Afrasiyab was only the bad guy because he was the antagonist of the story, if that makes sense. So that's the point that I wanted to illustrate, really. If I were to continue doing this project, especially if I had a little bit more time, I would also I guess I would put it in perspective with maybe the Odyssey. I enjoyed that more than, say, Gilgamesh. I wonder who, like, the main antagonist of the Odyssey would be. Would it be Odysseus himself? Because he's the one who keeps getting himself into all of those conundrums. I don't know. But anyway, thank you.